You have to name all three. You have to know all three. This is a tough one. Name all three Majesco Entertainment games developed by Wayforward and recently ported to Switch.
I don't think I can do that.
Feel free to Google before somebody else.
That guy in the back's probably gonna raise his hand.
Three Majesco games that Wayforward did.
Was it Cooking Mama? Cooking Mama?
And then we ported them to Switch later.
Give it a try.
I'm probably just sleep deprived. I'm really out of here. I haven't looked at the Switch recently. I'm assuming it's Disney related?
Nope.
Okay, no.
Not a one.
All right. Any other? I think
I thought this would be easier.
One of them is related to something we talked about.
Yes. One of them features some siblings we showed you guys earlier.
Oh, back there.
All right. Double Dragon Neon.
That's the only one.
It's easier. Double Dragon Neon one. There's easy one.
There's a gross one.
Right here, we got one.
Boya's Blob is number 2.
I love this one.
You guys share custody of the prize.
Anybody have the third
What's up
one?
over there?
Blood Rain Betrayal?
Blood Rain Betrayal. All three of you guys come get a game.
River City Girls 1 or 2 to choose from. The thirds.
I really wanted them to share custody.
That actually worked out.
Each had the answer, but they traded off.
You get a Monday, Tuesday. All right, that was our last trivia question. We've got a little bit of time left, so before we do one last thing at the end, let's open it up to Q&A. We have a microphone here, so if you guys have questions, just go ahead and line up. And you can ask us about any Wayforward products, any questions about Wayforward, any questions specific to the people on the panel. Try and be relatively quick so we can get through as many as we can.
Hi, this is actually a question I had last year.
Use the microphone.
Yeah. In River City Girls 1, the original ending when it released was that Misako and Kyoko saved Kunio and Riki, but both of them did not know who they even were. But then after the fact, there was an update for a true ending, and then since then, they have always just been their boyfriends. Was that a response to negative feedback, or was that always the plan?
Not really. I think a lot of people kind of assume that. We had that planned, but like everything in games, you don't get to do everything. And so the alternate ending was cutting room floor. We did not get a chance to do it. And once the game came out, it was more than, because it was really divisive. Some people loved the first ending, some people hated the first ending. But I think the biggest thing for me was that you went through, and spoilers, you beat this extra special hidden boss, and you didn't get anything extra for it, just the exact same. So kind of as we were talking about adjustments, Ben and I were working on, tweaks to some of the combat and going through doors and stuff like that. It made sense that if we could get that other ending together, it would be more satisfying and just kind of give an alternate thing. Not trying to undo it, not really a reaction to any negative press, because like I said, it was pretty split even between people that seemed to kind of love it and people that seemed to think it was very mean-spirited. But I was just so happy we got that in there so that it feels more rewarding when you actually go through and do the secret ending. It did make it tough though, because then when we moved on to River City 2 and everything else, you have to pick what the origin is, and ultimately having them all friendly with each other kind of gave us more opportunities than if they were, unaware of them. The other thing is that with the original ending, I don't think it was really intended to be that they didn't know them. I figured the boys were just kind of jerks and they had forgotten them, but they had dated them. I don't know. It's up to the interpreter of whoever watches it.
Yeah, because like Mami and Aspe in the series are always the girlfriends, so it's like this was our chance to kind of do our own spin, and like Adam said, might as well go with the positive one for part 2. It's just more positive.
Thank you.
Hi there again. Thank you very much for the Mighty Switch Force, by the way. I'm actually very excited for this because I remember playing this on the 3DS and I thought it was kick-ass. And thank you very much, Matt Bolson on the gang, for basically making this. I wanted to make this very quick. I would, the funny part about the Wendy thing with that game, no less, is that if that ever got made, it would be pretty cool to see it pretty much like how you did it with DuckTales. My question, and it's not related to that one, but my question is about Shantae, would be if there was any crossover, or basically if you ever wanted Shantae to cross over with a franchise or another thing, which one would you do, Matt?
Good question. And let's go ahead, so to get these going as fast as possible, once everyone's asked their question, go ahead and sit down so the next person can queue up, okay?
That's a good.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, you bet. Okay, boy, we've had a lot of ideas for crossovers in the past, but one I'll just say is kind of a cool one is, this is not happening, this is just something that would be neat, is if you guys are familiar with Monster World, there's a lot of similarities in the visual games. They both were created around the same time, and the director of that game, we've talked with him numerous times and been like, oh, our games are similar, we should do something someday. So that comes up from time to time. We just have a nice rapport and kind of mutual respect for each other's games. So I don't know, maybe that's kind of, but man, there could be so many other things. I mean, we're dying, and you're like, yeah, there's so many, there's a lot of cool crossovers we could do, but that was the first one I thought of.
All right,
Oh,
next
awesome.
question.
Thank you.
Hi, I was just wondering, with the creation of the Switch and now you could say maybe competitors such as the Steam Deck, there's been a merging of console and handheld, right? And I know that Wayforward, at least the generation that I grew up in, we had Shantae, we had the Mighty Switch Force games, etc., that really thrived on that handheld and usually had those kind of gimmicks, right? Like Mighty Switch Force with the 3D. I was just wondering, if you could comment, how has that merging affected you? Is there something you miss about developing like a console game versus a handheld game, or do you think it's kind of streamlined the process?
I mean, I feel like that's maybe aimed at me a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. When Nintendo Switch kind of, even for things like when you see Game of the Years and things like that, they're categorically, they're like, well, we're not a handheld, but you kind of are a handheld. But formally, it's like, well, it's a console, but it has a handheld mode. Well, since so much of our identity was built around handheld games, handheld games used to feel like pocket-sized versions of other games. You'd have the main, you'd have your console game, I don't know, take Castlevania or Metroid Prime or something, and it's like, okay, but then the handheld version, kind of like a little more bite-sized, a little more condensed into just the core of what it is, right? It's like, give me that, everything that game's about, and give it to me in smaller doses, and pocket-size it, shrink it down, is the way I kind of think of it. When that went away, yeah, I do think we kind of lost something. I think the Nintendo DS era was the last time we had experiences that were quite like that, and then they've kind of all been very console-like. I feel like maybe me and you on Pirate's Curse, I feel like that was the last one that was like, it was a pocket game design, and then it was ported almost immediately after to console, and it kind of changed a little bit. But I think that was almost like a bridge game in that way. A bridge between.
Yeah, we still look for opportunities though. One, it's a forgotten game. We're trying to get it back now, but Till Morning's Light on mobile was an iOS game. So that was made really for bite-sized games, small screen. And then, we will still do things that are specific to the features. When you saw the trailer for Rose and Camellia earlier, take out the Joy-Con to do your slapping. We're always going to take advantage of whatever the features are, whether it's on-the-go gaming or the individual bells and whistles of each thing. So, yeah, it is a little, I think what kind of along the same lines of what Matt said is, there was a shift where suddenly we're kind of in direct competition with everything. We're no longer just making really cool little handheld darlings. Now you're competing with Halo, and now you're competing with everything. It is a shift, but I think that you look at the talented people that we have on the stage and the visions that they have on their game, that they're doing stuff that's really funny, that's really charismatic, that's really charming, and I think that's always going to cut through the noise and stand out.
Yeah, and I know that directors like me and James and Matt for sure, but I'm sure Bannon and Adam, but we also play it on the handheld mode to make sure it is a true fun experience. It's not just like, oh, it's on console and you can also play handheld. We're like, this has to make sense, this is feel good. So.
Yeah, the thing I look for is, can I even see the UI?
Right, that's a good question. Yeah, I think that's great. We talk about that.
With Clock Tower coming soon, I just felt like I could ask, if you could choose to port plus any one game, what would it be?
Oh,
Well, let's start with Mario for Clock Tower. What would be your next Port Plus wish list?
I've given this answer a couple times now, but I'm gonna stick with it. There's a game called Wonder Project J. That was for, oh my god, people recognize it, thank you.
Oh yeah.
I do. Yeah, it was a Super Nintendo game, also only released in Japan. There's also Wonder Project J2, which was for the N64, and they both kind of, they're point and click games where you're kind of controlling and teaching a little Pinocchio boy in the first one, and then a Pinocchio girl in the second one. They're super cute, they're beautifully animated, and every time I see it, I'm like, I wish everyone knew about this game. So that's my choice.
That's a fantastic answer, by the way. If I had to pick one, that's a very tough call. There's just so many options out there. So many.
Mine's a quick one. I don't think we're going to get to do it. We're looking for games that have never officially been released here.
Yeah.
The very first Shin Megami Tensei never came out.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to get people excited. It doesn't happen, but that would be high on our wish list if we could help bring that over.
That would be awesome.
I'm gonna happy with Mother 3.
That'd be also awesome.
Mine is, I got two of them, Comic Zone.
Oh yeah.
Urban Rain that doesn't look like it's like 7 or like 240p. Urban Rain, look it up.
Okay, do you have one? I got one. Go ahead.
You go first, man.
Okay, all the Proteus games, you go.
Oh my God! You stole my
I want Sexy Parade.
I was gonna say Sexy Proteus. I can't believe that just happened. That is not.
I'll change mine to Demon's Crest then.
Okay.
Fix that.
All right, next question.
Wow.
You guys mentioned that you work with MS-DOS for the Didnt game. If any, how heavy was the cheat code extraction and the assembly language?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So first, you would need to ask that of one of the programmers. So unfortunately, I don't know what I'm talking about. But on the art side, it's brutal because there's just so many restrictions. And I like posted jokes on Twitter. It's like, hey, the UI for the tools is in the color palette. So if you're like, I want to color with the color red today, and it's like, oh no, that's used for the undo button. If you change that color, your undo button will disappear, and now you can't undo anymore. It's like you can actually completely mess up your tools because
I think you were saying, Matt, the other day also that there's no script in the game. Like there's no.
Oh no, it's all hard coded. Yeah, no, words are just. Yeah, I'll give you one. This might help a little bit with kind of getting a sense of it. Is we had a knock-on effect of. There was a spot in the game where, I don't know, a character, we needed to add a cursor into a menu, right? Just like I just need 8 pixels, I can make one sprite. And Mike, the programmer, is like, well, we're out. We've used everything up. We used it all up 20 years ago and you're trying to put more stuff in, we're out, we can't put in anything. I'm like, I've got to put in a pointer so they can point at the thing. And he's like, well, we can swap out a letter. I mean, we have tiles that are the alphabet. Can you like change the script and not use certain letters? I'm like, well, in this one scene, we're not using, the number 4. And so I'm like, all right, well, we'll get rid of the number 4. So never use the number 4, ever. Like if you ever have it, you have to write it out. I'm like, okay, I promise I'll write it out. So it's like, we did that, and then we get to other parts. Actually, it wasn't number 4, it was number 2. Because we got to a moment in time in the script where I'm like, aha, and then Shantae says, ready to go, and then crash. We can't have this in the game. So I had to come up with another, I'm like, dude, is there no way to get the number 2? He's like, if we could remove that part of the subscreen and not select. You get where I'm going with this. Anyway, she does not get to say the catchphrase in this game because there are absolutely ironclad restrictions, and it's not the hardware's fault or the programmer's fault. It's just you design certain stuff and you set up certain things that are like, it is the load-bearing poster.
Red 3 go.
Red 3 go. Yeah, so you'll see. There's a clever workaround, but
Let's try and do some rapid fire one. Get through as many people as possible. We got